Are ghosts real? Several recent encounters suggest there might be more things in heaven and earth than we can dream of.
So are werewolves just a Hollywood creation, or do half-man, half-wolf creatures really exist? Now, tonight, we kick off our Conspiracy Theory Month series, which was a...
The legend of the vampire actually goes back for centuries, and it exists in some form or another in almost every culture. In fact, some people believe the first vampire story was in the Bible.
Well, for decades, only crackpots and crazy people believed in UFOs. That's what I thought anyway. And then in recent years, it turns out that governments have been taking them seriously all along.
Try and clear up an ancient mystery with the help of a prominent veterinarian who says she can prove that Bigfoot exists and that he's related to all of us.
New reports, 5 pilots coming forward over the weekend saying they've had multiple mid-air encounters with high-flying, fast-moving objects.
Wednesday morning, 4 a.m. Just finishing up another shift at the local factory. Been a hard couple weeks. And tonight was one of those nights that time almost stood still, dragging on forever. But hey, you're finished now. And who are you to complain? So many others recently lost their jobs in the factories around you, and you're still working, you're still making money, and though it might not be your dream career, you're still paying the bills. You hold on to that, to warm your way, as you venture from the factory towards your car a couple blocks down along the railroad tracks. Tonight you're running a little bit behind, and unfortunately the main parking lot fills up pretty quick. Normally you'd park next door, but as I said, the factories are all shut down, posted, blocked off. So, unfortunately, a few unlucky bastards every night have to park down along the railroad tracks. Early December, so the air is kind of cool and crisp. But you're focused on getting to the car and getting home, so that tomorrow you can do this all over again. As you take a seat in the front, looking through your phone, trying to find the perfect tunes to put you in the mood for the drive home and to also keep you awake, because, as I said, it's been a long couple weeks. All of a sudden, someone knocks on the driver's side window. Scares the shit out of you. Almost jump into the passenger seat. As you look back, to your surprise, it's not what you expected. It looks like a young child. Dark gray hoodie and basketball shorts. Kind of pale of skin. 4 a.m. in the morning? Early December? Basketball shorts? Can I help you? What's wrong? Please, there's been an accident. Please, I need to use your phone. Can I please get in the car? Right away, you want to help this child out. You're scared for him. So you say, sure, come around the side of the car. I'll let you in. All of a sudden, a sick feeling hits you. A feeling of dread. Something's not right. Something's wrong. Before you reach down and hit the unlock button, you say out loud to, where are your parents? Please, I'm so cold. I'm so cold out here. Please let me in. There's been an accident. I need your help. I need to use your phone. So you push your fears aside. You unlock the car and you let him climb in. As he sits down in the passenger seat, you pull out your cell phone to make a phone call. Who can I call for you? Do you want me to call 911? Where's your parents? How can I help you? As he turns his head and looks up at you, all of a sudden, the dread becomes real, as you notice his eyes are entirely black. All of a sudden, the world starts swirling around you. Something's not right. Something's wrong. Oh, what is happening? I'm starting to lose focus. Next thing you know, something's grabbed a hold of your arm. You start kicking and screaming, fighting with everything you have in you, only to hear, calm down, calm down, everything's okay. Calm down, it's Chuck, calm down. As your sight comes into focus, you realize it's the maintenance man, Chuck, from your factory, telling you everything's all right. What's going on? What happened? Chuck proceeds to tell you that he left work, and as he got to his car, he noticed that you were sitting over there with the dome light on. making all kinds of noise, passenger door wide open. He knew something was wrong, and as he came over, it appeared that you were having a very, very bad nightmare. You all of a sudden remember what happened. You look around for the child. Where is he? Where is he? Where's who? Chuck says. The young boy. Well, what would there be a young boy out here at this time of night? I think you need to get home and get a little bit of sleep. You all of a sudden realize how ridiculous this must sound. A young boy at this time of night out here. All black eyes. Where has the time gone? How long have I been out here? I don't know what to do. I don't know who I can tell. Confused, lost, afraid. You just had an encounter with the black-eyed children. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Celestial Oddities PairOfNormal Guys radio show. I am one of your hosts, Garrett Jagaman.
And I will be your co-host this evening, Daniel James.
And we want to thank you for tuning in. Whether listening live or streaming us after the fact, make sure that you click the like, share, and follow buttons on whatever platform you're listening to us from iTunes to iHeartRadio, Spotify, or Google Play, everywhere in between. We bring you our show, so make sure you click those buttons, help us move up the podcast community rankings, keeps you in the loop on what's happening with our new episode, and allows more people to discover the show. So make sure you check us out several times a month, talking over all things supernatural, esoteric, and paranormal. And certainly got a great episode in store for you tonight. If you heard the intro to the show tonight, told you a little bit about the story of an encounter with the black-eyed children. And that's what we're going to be touching base on tonight. We know a lot of you were very excited to check out this episode. It did get postponed due to COVID-19 and some of the things going on around the world. So we apologize for that. But we are back tonight, Daniel, and we're ready to talk to these fine folks on a great topic.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to getting back into this. We do apologize for the brief hiatus. Like Garrett said, life happens, but here we are. We're ready to give you another interesting, sort of paranormal, metaphysical perspective on the topic of the black-eyed children. Garrett, you want to kick us off?
Absolutely. So as you heard in the story at the beginning of the episode, it talked about an encounter with a hooded young child figure that was presenting a situation of panic and needing help, begging for you to give access to either their car or, in a lot of stories, their home, where you'll get a knock at the door at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. You wake up, you walk out to the door, you look out, and there's a young child standing out there. A lot of times there's two. The stories oftentimes are in pairs of children. You don't exactly see their face. They're looking down. They're always wearing hoodies for some reason. And they present a story that they need to come in, they need to use the phone, something's wrong, and they need help. Quickly afterwards, there's always a feeling in most cases of dread where someone feels that something is wrong. Whether they let them in the house or they're soon to let them in the house, they know that something is just not right. Something is off. In certain cases, people have let them in. Now, once they have gained access to the home, stories in different cases have told of people starting to feel very, very ill and disoriented, and even blacking out, waking up later on with the children being gone, never seeing them again, don't know what happened while they were out, and they're just gone. Things from, nosebleeds to extreme migraines before blacking out, and just a lot of very similar stories. Now, this started in 1996. From a man in Texas was the first case that was reported of these beings. Now, in the last 24 years, they have really gained traction, whether that's because just the allure of the story itself has made people believe they're seeing things that they're not, or adding on to making their own stories. Maybe they're truly happening and it just wasn't reported for a long time. We are not exactly sure, but needless to say, around the 1996 time frame, the black-eyed children emerged into the underground paranormal scene. And there has been absolutely hundreds of cases of seeing them and encounters with them over those years, which begs the question, are they real? What are people seeing out there? And what I like about this one is that it's not as easy as are they real or aren't they real. If they're not real, so be it. But if they are real, it also adds on that side question of what exactly are they? You can't really label them as a demon because they seem to be of physical form. They are knocking on the door. They seem to be real and tangible, not an entity. But they are asking for access to be granted to come into your home, which would be very eerily similar to a vampire, which there's a lot of points I want to hit on that shortly. People believe that maybe they are aliens of some sort, and either they're aliens in disguise, begging on your mercy, using the disguise of a child, or maybe that's just the form that they are in, and it's how they come, is Earth-like beings with black eyes. But there's a lot of different ideas of what kind of thing this is, if they are indeed real. It's a very interesting thing. It's been adopted and picked up a lot in different movies and different shows. Recently, we interviewed Case 347, the director of that film, and in that film there's a few scenes of black-eyed children associated with alien visitation and spacecraft UFO sightings. And that's very common to put those two together. In fact, there has been some information put together that a lot of times around the sightings of UFOs in a certain area where they're getting multiple reports, that there's always usually a connection with sightings of black-eyed children, which would put the two together. So that's the beginning of the presentation of what we want to talk about tonight. Daniel and I are going to jump back and forth on some different ideas and theories. Dan, I want to pick your brain a little bit. What are your thoughts? I mean, thinking about the fact of asking to gain entry, but also looking kind of demonic, like it would be a demon entity of some sort, but then often being associated with aliens and having big black eyes like you see the Greys often having, and knowing that, they seem to be kind of an interdimensional being of some sort. What's your take on what they are?
Well, for me, this episode particularly is a little bit more of a conversational episode and less of a lecture-based episode because, believe it or not, I'm less familiar with the phenomenon of these particular beings than so many other topics that we discuss. It's like, are they an urban legend? Are they some type of cryptid? The questions that I have are like, why are the stories and the accounts of them always being, say, for example, 16 or less? Younger kids. I mean, I read about people actually seeing babies with black eyes, so it goes from babies all the way up to teenagers. Why the age specificity? I'm curious about this. My first incline is to obviously just go right to the ties into extraterrestrial alien concepts, some sort of potential hybridization, But why? It just doesn't make sense within any of the narratives and the story arcs that I'm really familiar with in the extraterrestrial paradigm in the community of, what we know. So tying these particular beings to the alien aspect of things, it's still a little bit of a stretch and a gray area for me. I'm really reaching here with these guys because I'm not exactly sure where I want to go with this, but my imagination takes me somewhere different, okay, than what I would usually revert to as far as like what I know. So I'm having fun with this. I'm kind of just like winging it right now. But these almost seem like some type of collective thought form in a sense where it's like, okay, you think of the concept of werewolves. You think of the concept of vampires. We have stories. We have lore. We don't have a lot of scientific evidence of anything like that particularly existing. However, all over the world and throughout history, you're going to have, firsthand accounts with beings like that. So the black-eyed children I have the least familiarity with. So what could they be, right?
I think the vampire thing is a very interesting take on it that I see backing behind. There's some reasons I could argue that, but there's some things that make me think of a vampiric nature.
So why do you think the age specificity? Why do we never see black-eyed adults?
And that is an interesting concept, and it makes me wonder, is there a incognito outfit that they use? Are they coming poised as something else? Are they appearing as children to us to prey on our vulnerability? Okay. Because when we see a child, we want to let them in. If they appear as an adult on your door saying, please, let me in, you're not letting them in. But when it's a little kid saying, please, I'm cold, let me in, you're like, oh shit, I got to let this kid in. And then you let them in and it's too late. And the weird thing is people often black out and then they wake up and the kids are gone.
Okay, so that was my next question. Like, what is the result of them getting in the house and using the phone? Like, what happens to the people when that happens? You saying they pass out?
A lot of times, I remember reading an account where the gentleman was going back to the bathroom because one of them asked him for something. He says, oh, that's in the bathroom, let me go get it. And as he was walking down the hallway, his nose started bleeding badly, and he got this wicked migraine out of nowhere and then just blacked out. But it's common occurrence from a lot of different stories that I've noticed that people black out and don't remember what happened to them. Everything's, just it passed by, whether that's minutes, whether that's hours. But there doesn't seem to be any markings on them. But what if it's a different type of vampiric? You're thinking oftentimes when you hear that word, blood. What if it's something to do with your soul, with your mind, that they feed off you somehow, but it doesn't leave a physical mark that you can see? So you start to wonder, is it a dream? Did I imagine it? What the hell happened? What did it do to me? And then you're always in wonder, like, what did it do to me during that 20 minutes? And you never know, it's gone. So it gives you that alien abduction feel almost too. So it's a very interesting concept that it brings an element of almost every different category into play.
Well, here's a thought that just came to mind, and I'm theorizing here, I'm speculating, but have you ever heard those stories or watched those YouTube videos where people say that they saw like a reptilian that was hidden, like the human cloaked sort of reptilian being?
Yes.
Where they see like the eyes will do like the reptilian slit thing where they'll blink from the side or something weird?
Correct, yeah.
It's said that certain extraterrestrials that are in some sort of disguise or incognito and sort of like a human sort of cloaking idea, it's said that the eyes are the one thing that they can't really conceal. The eyes are the hardest thing for them to hide behind.
Makes sense.
So, and I'm like I said, I'm just theorizing here, but what if the black-eyed situation is their tell that there's something maybe genetically or spiritually very different about them, and that the blackness is that's their tell. So, because I want to know why the black. If it's something so obvious that a human being like you or I who runs into one of these kids, you're gonna instantly think that something's wrong. Is it deliberate?
Well, and they always keep their heads down for a while, so it's like they try to play on it without letting you see their eyes. So when they'll come up to you and they talk to you and I need help, they're looking down. They always have their hood up, whether cold, whether warm. They have hoodies on. That's the weird thing is almost every sighting that you hear of these children, they're always wearing hoodies with the hood up.
Okay.
And that's strange. That's a strange side fact that there's this creature out there that wears hoodies. You know what I mean? Not like this horse creature or this or that. No, it's children that wear hoodies. and it's often reported that way, but they don't look at you right away. They come to your door. They tell you that they need help. They keep looking away and they just look like something's wrong. Like, oh my God, did something happen to this child? Why is this young girl out here 2 a.m.? Did someone do something to her? So right away it starts playing on your emotions like, I need to help this kid. They're vulnerable. Right. And you don't think, and you let them in. Before you even have time to analyze, why would this kid ever be, of harm to me? Come on in, we'll figure this out. I'll call 911. But as soon as you let it into your house, all of a sudden something's wrong. And then lights out.
Right.
And then you wake up, the kid's gone, you don't know what happened.
And they don't steal anything.
They don't steal anything, nothing. It's just done.
Okay, so then that gets me back into the idea that it's some sort of like mental, maybe thought form manifestation. Like maybe this is some sort of strange sort of social dynamic that they like a vampire. You know how they said that they have like that charming ability where they can sort of like influence you and coax you into doing things through like sort of infringing on your free will. Maybe it's almost like some sort of experiment.
I believe it is.
Weird kind of social experiment where they can see how much they can infringe on your free will and get you to help them and let them in your home and let them use your resources as an act of like your first response is to help the kids. Why not? But then do you listen to your intuition and to your inner voice and say something isn't right about the situation? I don't feel safe. Maybe I'll call the police for you. but you can't come into my home. It could be some sort of like experiment. And the reason why I say that is because if there's no seemingly repercussion, if nothing is stolen, if you're not physically injured, it's just like a weird experience that you collect that you can use as an interesting topic starter at a party. What is the actual meaning at all for the total encounter?
And that's what I've often wondered is, I mean, there could be some feeding that we don't realize, that it's something that we don't see. It's not physical, but it makes me think of experiment of some sort. We don't take anything, as you said, we don't harm you. And oftentimes people right off the bat would say these little crazy looking kids with black eyes, they're evil, they're bad. And they're bad because they're indifferent to you and they're against what you would imagine is good. So it doesn't necessarily mean they're bad. As you said, it might be an alien race of some sort or an experiment to say, how are these humans going to react to this situation?
Right.
And then we can make them kind of fall asleep, kind of disappear, and they wake up and they won't know if it happened, if it didn't happen. And hey, that's on them. We did our experiment. We gathered our data. Let's get in. Let's get out.
So I'm big into social dynamics. So now that I'm analyzing it a little bit more and just talking this out with you, it does make sense that it would be some kind of experiment that's for their own data, not ours. And so it's like, okay, well, let's come into the form of a child or a teenager that's in need and needs your help. That's going to play on like the natural, innate human need and desire to want to help. Okay, so that's point number one. Point number two. There's also a tell that something is obviously not right about the situation. What's with the fucking black eyes? Where are your parents? Why are you out here in the middle of nowhere? Why are you asking for me to get into my house when you can go anywhere else under any circumstance? So I love deductive reasoning, and I love doing detective work. So that's just the way my mind works. So it looks like a very orchestrated, deliberate encounter. Like if you meet one of these black-eyed children, you've been chosen to go through this experience, and it might not have a negative effect. You might not have like a lasting sort of like, negative thing happen to you, but you've definitely been chosen, and you are involved in something very strange.
Yeah, whether you want to or not, you have been chosen at this point, because it's not even in town areas. I mean, there's been homes literally in the middle of nowhere with no neighbors at all, backwoods, all of a sudden, middle of the night, knock, 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 and they come to the door and there's just a kid standing there.
Like, little Jimmy, what are you doing?
Yeah, like, Jimmy, what the fuck, man? It's 3 a.m. in the morning. Why are you knocking at my door? And, and then she's just like, I need help, and can I use your phone? And you're like, where the hell did you come from? I need your phone. And the weird thing is they get very insistent, apparently, from accounts that I read, that there are people say, well, I'll call the police for you. You just wait right there. And they're like, no, I really think you need to let me in the house. And the weird thing is, I think they use the eyes for two different things, because a lot of times once they know they're not getting in, they look up at the person and they use the eyes to scare the shit out of them.
That power of suggestion, they're pushing that sort of sense of urgency. Like, if you don't let me in, look how scary I am. I'm going to scare you real bad if you just don't let me use your phone.
Well, but they use the opposite though when they come in. So when they come in and then you're starting to help them, you go get them the glass of water, and then all of a sudden they look up at you, and then that's the last thing you remember, and you black out. So one's to strike fear in you to show you didn't let me in, look at me, and the other one's to say, look at me, and now you're going to go to sleep. And it's pretty interesting that that's some high technology, and you go to wonder, is that a skin of some sort where that's not actually them? And as you said, it's like the reptilians in a way, where they are mimicking another race, or do they actually look like that?
They could be a shapeshifter, or that could just be their species, and their eyes are the one trait that is very different than human.
Yeah, it's puzzling, man. It's very interesting though. The vampiric thing makes me think of that because of asking entry to come in, and the hypnotizing of them and glamoring of them. One thinks of a vampire as the traditional vampire. They don't think of it as something that it looks like that, like an alien type being, because we've only ever known the one story that's been created for us. But how do we know? How do we know it's not some black-eyed child? And they don't get older than that because their whole race is children.
Okay, fuck with that. Let me play on that then for a minute. Two things. 2 points to fuel that fire. Number one, there's also the concept of psychic vampires. And I was taught to watch out for them and shield myself from them. Like when I was a teenager, I was learning about what a psychic vampire is, and they don't drink blood. They draw on your energy. They draw on your fear. They draw on your emotions, and that's very common when when you get into the whole concept of like archons and stuff. They don't feed on like your organism. They feed on your energy, and that could be a whole other factor. And then, if Garrett and I were talking through email recently, I sent him some information on the concept of the super soldier programs that exist within the SSP. Well, another thing about those super soldier programs is a lot of them talk about other planets that they'll go to, and there's actually, from what they say, this is what I heard, that there's total farm planets, okay, total slave planets, where there's humans just like us that have like a master vampire race that is, to quote unquote, I'm doing air quotes, superior to them as like their masters, that look like humans, but they're stronger, they're faster, they're immortal, and they do feed on their blood and their energy as a food, as a sustenance force. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is because it is within my belief structure that things like vampires and shapeshifters and werewolves do exist in some form, in some shape, even if maybe not right here on our street corner. But I think that all of those sort of stories and the lore behind them, they come from some world of fact in a distant way, or just maybe right behind the veil or the curtain. So the reason why I went on this whole vampire rant is because I think you're onto something. They could be like energy vampires. They're not drinking your blood.
Yeah, absolutely. That was kind of my deduction from it, that, you know what, let us in. If you don't let us in, I'm going to scare the shit out of you, and I'm still going to pull the energy from your fear, and I'm going to feed on that right at your doorstep. But if you let me in, I'm going to make you black out, and for 20 minutes, I'm going to feed off your energy. You're going to feel tired, have nosebleeds, get headaches, sleep for a lot after that, because I just sucked all the energy out of you. I don't need to bite your neck. I just do it through my hands or through my dark eyes.
Let me stop you right there. Let me stop you right there. That's another thing, man. When I was in Hawaii, I was visiting my girlfriend in, I think it was Kona, Hawaii, and the locals talked a lot about how haunted that area was. That there was a lot of, spirits and shadow people and whatever you want to call ghosts in that area. And I had paranormal encounters with, what I would call ghosts or spirits pretty much my whole life. So that wasn't anything new to me. But for the first time in my life, I had many, many encounters in this particular house that we were staying in, which was actually right on the beach. Now, one night, my girlfriend and I, we were asleep in the guest bedroom where I was visiting, and the bedroom door was closed, and I was fast asleep. Well, all of a sudden, I hear the door open. Now, the whole family that we were staying with, they were actually gone. They were out at like a party thing, and we just didn't go. We stayed back, her and I, to have the house to ourselves for a couple hours. And so nobody was in the house. The house was empty. All of a sudden, I hear the door open, and it wakes me up because I heard the doorknob like turn. And as the doorknob opens, I see like maybe, say, for example, a 6-foot shadowed figure standing in the doorway of our bedroom, which was backlit because the hallway light was on. So there was a silhouette of like a black wispy sort of figure in the doorway. And it was the strangest phenomenon that I'd experienced up until that point in my life, because as the door opened and I open my eyes and I see this figure in the doorway, I could literally feel it suck all of the energy right out of the room. I'm talking the temperature changed, and I had stricken right awake because I knew the house was empty, and so I was a little concerned. And it drew so much of my energy so fast that I literally passed out. I fell right back asleep, like to a total dead sleep, because it sucked all of like my energy right out of my awareness. My total being was just drained, and I passed out, like I fainted. I guess
Wow.
That's what fainting is. And then when I woke up in the morning, I shot up real quick because I felt like I was sort of like I never went back to sleep. I felt like
it was a moment. It was like a moment later, and all of a sudden you're awake.
It was
and
morning, and it was daylight.
What the hell's happening?
And I didn't feel slept. I felt hungover. I felt like I didn't sleep at all that night. And so I feel like whatever that entity was definitely drained my energy at that time, in that moment. And that kind of, to me, sounds similar to what happens to these people who let the black-eyed children into their homes. Is that correct?
I think so. That's from what a lot of accounts that I've read and watched on different footage and documentaries that I've been able to find over time, is that they feel drained, they feel tired, there's bloody noses and headaches and everything coming from them. I think it is some sort of mental draining and feeding off them. And like I said, they're feeding off the fear. And then if they get lucky enough to get inside the house, I guess there's, for some reason, they need that validation of being able to come in the home, which is interesting. But then they feed off it and go from there. But the thing that makes me wonder and throw this topic for another little spin would be, of my encounters over the years with demonic entities and working in the field that I do, and there's been a few times where I've come across spirits of a lower vibrational frequency that have hit me that way, that have hit me like, oh my God, instant fear, instant dread. And it does suck the air out of your lungs. It does suck the energy out of you. And afterwards you're like, oh wow, I could go to sleep right now. Yeah. So it makes me wonder, like, is it a demonic ghost form, entity, spirit, demon? What is it? Aside from that, we automatically want to go to an alien being, something physical. We want to go to a vampire of sorts, something physical. But what if it's not something physical at all? What if it's something manifest?
Yeah. And that's why I wish we could interview somebody who had a face-to-face encounter. To get that feedback from somebody who was in their presence.
No, I would love that. It's weird because not everybody, and oftentimes it's at night, oftentimes it's either the car or the house, but there is certain people who have encountered them during the day as well, I seen a documentary where a girl was carrying her groceries into the house, and one of them approached her and said something to her about coming in. And then she told him no, went in the house. She seen his eyes before she went in the house. She ran in the house, and when she looked back out, he was gone, and she couldn't find him. She called the cops. They looked for him, couldn't find him. But it's interesting, man. It's definitely, it makes me wonder. I look at it from another aspect too, and let me know your feedback on this. What if it is a certain chain of events that cause certain frequencies to play out in our psyche that we see as real as can be, but it's a mass hallucination of sorts?
Yeah,
so
I'm with it.
So when things are just right, you or whoever is in your household, at that time, something triggered it to affect that area, affect that person, whatever have you.
Like a thought form.
Exactly, like a thought form of some sort came across the house. It clicked that thing. You hear the door being knocked at. You go and you answer it. All these things happen to you. And it really is just a replay over and over again of it happening in different areas. And it may have never happened. It might all just be a psychological effect that you experienced that is as real as anything else, but never actually happened and is all a dream.
See, I'm with it. That to me seems like the most probable and likely conclusion to what these beings are. It's a phenomenon.
Absolutely. And it's I think once you feed certain energies out there, even whether they were real or not, you can make them real. And what I mean by that is no one really reported black-eyed children or black-eyed kids prior to 96 that anybody can really find on record. Then this gentleman had reported that he had spotted them, and then over the next 24 years, you'd have hundreds and hundreds, if not upwards of over 1,000 reports of black-eyed kids at this point. And it makes you wonder, like I said, were they just not being reported before, and now with modern technology it's easier to find these things? Or is it something that once it happened, it started living in our minds, and we're pushing out the fear, and we're pushing out the idea, and there are thought forms and forces out there that pick up on those fractals of energy and those feelings that you're putting out, and then it manifests 100%. What you have now created.
100%. And I got to tell you, man, I'm so glad that you mentioned that. I want all of our listeners right now to look up the concept of an egregor. Okay? That's egregor. I just learned about egregors this last week, and it was honestly one of the most fascinating concepts that I've come across in a really long time, in months. And the overview of an egregor is it's basically a manifestation of what a group or collective of people give energy to. Now, what we're talking about is something that might have never even really existed in a physical way like we do until somebody came up with the idea or a story was told and then it was shared and then it starts building momentum. It starts gaining energy and growing until it physically manifests into some sort of example or reflection of that. So an egregor is a group or a collective's belief in a particular idea. Now that can, I believe, that thought form can turn into something with real momentum and a real crystallization and manifestation of something if enough people have an awareness of it. Now, egregors, the weird thing about them is once we give them power or we create them, be it subconscious, like the black-eyed children, we don't know what their origin was or why they manifest the way that they do. We've been speculating on this episode. But egregors can manifest from the collective energy behind a particular idea, and then it can become very real. Your experience and your perception of it can become very real, even if it actually came from nothing other than a thought or a belief. So I'm wondering if the whole black-eyed children idea could be something like a thought form that just caught wind somehow from a belief or an opinion or maybe a story, and then people begin to have their own encounters and their own one-on-one visitations with these beings, which are just, like you said, manifestations of a thought form.
Exactly. I mean, it sounds very far out to a lot of people. And folks, if you're not completely following us on that point, that's okay. We've given a lot of different scenarios and ideas of what this thing could be. This is just a very in-depth one, understanding energies and understanding frequencies, as Daniel and I are talking, that if you put your mind to it, they say that anything's possible because, in fact, it is. Once you learn to harness the power within your own mind and you realize it truly is a weapon, that isn't just a saying, and that you can channel those energies and those thought forms and you can make and manifest things in your life to happen. When you add more and more people behind that and you do all on a same type of idea pushing for the same thing, you can make bigger things happen. As a collective, the human race does that every day on millions of different levels. Your loves, your hates, your indifferences. They meet in a field that you don't see, in a visible field that's around us, and it causes different things to chain react from that. And that can create and manifest things in life from mere thought.
Yes.
Everything at one point was a mere thought until it became this. And that's heavy.
It crystallized.
And it crystallized and it manifested, exactly. And for the people out there, they're like, whoa. Yeah, there's a lot of deep ideas, but don't just naysay it. Think about it and look into it because there's a lot of possibilities behind it.
Absolutely. And just real quick, I mean, while we got you on the phone, law of attraction, law of repulsion, getting into quantum physics. Okay, we know that atoms and subatomic particles and neutrinos, they can all actually be influenced. Those are just probable energy particles that are sort of like governed by the intention and the energy that we send them. If you just get into quantum physics, the law of attraction it's backed by science. So who's to say that if you either subconsciously or consciously have a fear about something, or you heard a story about a creature in the night, that you don't give that energy and then it manifests in some way?
Well, I think that's what most sightings, I've come to start believing that. I have two different thoughts on paranormal because, as you know, I do hunts and investigations, right. And I think that they're just something that happens and it's miraculous and I love being a part of it. But then another part thinks that it is the mere circumstance of the right people at the right time, the right vibrations, pushing off to chain react that to happen.
Correct.
Now, we might all see it differently. We might all see something. You see this, I see that, but for some reason, the right people were at the right time in the right place, and it fired and it sparked that to happen, and then boom, it happens. But if you had one different person in it, the chemicals wouldn't have been right, it wouldn't have fired, it wouldn't have happened that night. I believe that maybe not all sightings and things are that reason, but I believe that the crossing of certain vibrational frequencies, as I said. And as you said, it can make things manifest. Case in point, Slender Man.
Yeah.
That was never a real thing. And then all of a sudden there started being sightings of it all over the world. Now that could just be people believing that, people bullshitting. Absolutely. But it could also be that once enough fear, once enough energy and buzz have been put behind it, it becomes very real.
Yeah, dude, and we can go really deep into this rabbit hole. I mean, the concept that we're talking about is so important. You got to look at like mainstream media. Look at mainstream music. You know, when certain things are depicted and a mass consensus of people see it or hear it, they become privy to that information based on where they have their beliefs and their understanding of the way reality works. Man, the energy behind the perception of even a movie, okay, a fictional work of art, can implant so many ideas into any given person that can then manifest in some way, shape, or form in their reality. Anything's possible.
I believe it truly is, 100%.
I don't want to go too far off the topic here, getting into like quantum physics, but it's like, you know, what Garrett and I are trying to do is we're trying to come up with theories as to what these black-eyed children are, what their intentions are, where they come from, what it all means. And this has some of the least amount of evidence out of any of the cryptids that you could research or any of the urban legends that you can research. The black-eyed children, like, I think I've heard about them for years and years and years and years and years, but it's just a phenomenon that I know the least amount about.
Well, and there's not a lot captured on them. I mean, you'll see some cheesy shit on the internet that people try to fake videos that they have of them and pictures that I don't believe are real. But there isn't really much evidence caught of these things. There's never been a fingerprint. There's never been a picture that's been clearly caught of them. Video footage. There's a bunch of very sketchy things that people are saying are them, but no actual footage. So once again, maybe they're not real, but maybe they are, and they're just that good, and they know how to somehow stay off the grid. Mm-hmm. It's very interesting, but I love that concept and really wanted us to speak on that, like I said, because sure, we can call them vampires and ghosts and demons and aliens and inner dimensional beings, but what if they are just thought patterns manifest into what's in front of us? And as you said with media, think about the fact of, ask yourself this question, fans. How much of what you know is from what you've experienced in life, and how much is from what you've watched and been told and listened to?
Good point.
Think of how much of your knowledge and spectrum of every thought that you have, that you went out in the field, dug your hands in, learned for yourself, and gained that knowledge and said, this is how it's done, compared to how much you read a book, you were told by your parents, you were told by the news, a movie, a song, compared to that. What if those things all have certain motives? What if all those things all push for certain ways? Because once you have enough of the cattle in a field believing the same way, pushing their frequencies, you can make anything happen. You can manifest an entire ecosystem and world and planet such as the one we're living in now. Everything you know could have been manipulated to be the way that it is right now. Complete side point, but we were on that and I had to drop it.
We were going there. It was going to happen. I mean, you and me are a little too big into the way reality works to not go there. And to leave on a more empowering spin on that concept is, if we are the ones who create those thought forms because of a story we heard or a belief we have, and it exists in our reality as a result of our energy that we feed it, then do not forget, dear listeners, that we can also take them apart, and we can also dissolve them and change them into something that we more prefer or benefits us in the way that we need it to. So what we don't want to do is scare you into creating, the monster under your bed, but we want you to know that if a monster under your bed manifests, that there are things you can do about it with the same way that it was created.
Absolutely. The invisible enemy's out there, folks.
They're in your mind.
Down. They're in your mind. Get them with some Clorox. You'll put a stop to them instantly.
That's good. Yeah.
No, but folks, there's a lot going on out there, and like I said, just open your eyes, pay attention to it, and see what's around you. But if you have thoughts of what the black-eyed children are, if you have a take on, theories of your own or about certain things that we said tonight, please feel free to email us at celestialoddities@gmail.com. Daniel and I answer your emails each and every day. We'll always get back to you. We would love to hear from you and hear what you think we should do on the show coming up, what topics you want us to cover on each and every one of our episodes. As always, we got a lot of fun stuff planned for you. And we were glad to be able to bring you an episode tonight talking about this. I think it's a cool and neat idea. And, personally, I would like to experience it. Now, hopefully one doesn't visit me tonight. I'm not ready for it just yet. I got a brace for that. But it would be kind of cool, I think, to come across them as long as it isn't meaning me any harm.
Let me ask you this.
Yes, certainly.
Are you letting them in, or are you going to leave them at the door?
I think if I was single, I would let one in because it would be a different world. But with my wife and child, I don't think so. No, I'm not going to take that chance of letting anybody in my house. But if it was me by myself, I think there's a chance. Because here's the thing, folks. If you don't know about me, I am involved in occult practices and do things with the side of magic. Yes, that's right, folks. I said magic, and I don't mean like Chris Angel magic. Real ceremonial, ritualistic magic. You are able to use those frequencies that we talked about, and you are able to channel them to make things manifest. So it isn't, to me, it sounds so radical to so many people to think of some of the topics that me and Dan talked about tonight. But firsthand, I have seen it happen. You can manifest something in front of you that is very real. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, but you can cause it to go from not being there to there by intention, will, focus, and energy and vibration. Fact. And it's incredible, and it's out there. So I think that there's a good chance that that's what's going on with this topic.
Fascinating. Well, you know what? I've enjoyed talking about it. It's promoting me to think a little bit differently and think a little bit more outside of some of the boxes that our thought patterns tend to travel through. So listen, guys, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Or if you're listening to the replay of this, we are back. We're going to keep pumping out episodes. We are going to put out a little commercial advertisement that Garrett and I are going to be working on here soon. So listen, thank you guys very much for listening and for being here with us.
Absolutely, guys. We will catch you in the next couple weeks. Be keeping an eye out for updates and everything that's going on here at Celestial Oddities. And we'll be with you again soon. We love you. Have a good night, and talk to you soon.